communist China, who decides who has nothing to hide? Like Ping An, the government is now converting data on its citizens into social credit scores. It's called Sharp Eyes, and those eyes are electronic thanks to the world's most advanced surveillance. The 5 most surveilled cities in the world are Chinese. China now has more than 200 million cameras, including at the entrance to an international conference. And cameras use software that recognize not only faces, but also how people walk, and can then track their location as they move. That allows cameras to judge behavior. In Shenzhen, cameras watch this intersection. If people jaywalk, they're publicly shamed when their faces are displayed on the screen. Do you think because that camera is there, more people cross legally?
Of course. They're afraid to be seen doing something inappropriate, so they will change their behavior.
If you jaywalk, it reduces your credit score. For example, if you cross the red light, your score would be reduced by 2 to 3.
Behavior change is exactly what the government wants. And the credit score system is so important, there's even a Communist Party-produced national credit magazine. Wu Xiaoyan is the editor-in-chief.
The Chinese system's main purpose is to build a credible society of trust. This system has become an effective measure in our social governance. For example, on the bus, people with regular scores will pay regular price, and people with good scores only pay 80% of that.
Rewarding good behavior all across society and punishing bad behavior is enshrined in her magazine. When I look in this magazine, I see an honor list in red, and then in black, a blacklist.
Those on the red list are people who have trustworthy behavior. Those on the blacklist are people whose behaviors are not trustworthy.
Does it work? Does rewarding people who act well and punishing people who act badly make more people act well?
Of course it works.
And something about that question made her uncomfortable. She and her staff walked out of the interview and the newsroom, but the microphones were still rolling and recorded their conversation about my questions.
What kind of question was that? Don't talk about the government. Talk about companies, businesses.
We need to be calm. We cannot refuse to be interviewed.
Not too rigid or serious.
10 minutes later, she did come back to finish the interview. Everything okay? She said everything was okay, but the government's critics say everything is not okay because they say China's big data is becoming Big Brother. Companies that use the social credit system and the government say the social credit system improves people's behavior. But critics say that the government can use the social credit system to target and penalize anyone who opposes or criticizes the Communist Party. In Hong Kong, protesters say mainland China is exporting a system of surveillance. So when they demonstrate, they climb up ladders and try and cover up the cameras. And protesters also cover up their faces. This 21-year-old and her friends declined to give their names for fear China would punish them.
Although I'm wearing a mask, they're like AI tracking down our faces, and maybe they will just use computers and recognize us in maybe just 1 second, and having all our identifications and all our informations. We are scared about it.
And protesters fear surveillance goes from cameras to inside their phones. They organize these rallies offline because they believe police hacked into their messaging apps.
We are super scared that our personal information will leak out and we'll get caught based on these informations.
Protesters' fears are accurate, says Zhang Lifan, a long-standing critic of the government. He was willing to sit for an interview but refused to be seen with us in public, so he met us in our hotel room. Are you, as a constant critic of the government, under surveillance?
Of course. We can feel this surveillance all the time. The Chinese authorities use a network of cameras throughout cities, facial recognition systems, as well as various mobile phone apps to monitor individuals. Surveillance is indeed omnipresent.
And that surveillance happens automatically and instantaneously. Every day, Chinese citizens send more than 45 billion messages on WeChat, the country's most popular messaging service. If you type in something sensitive, like a reference to the Tiananmen Square massacre in Mandarin, the recipient never receives it.
Sometimes my wife and I suddenly can't contact each other. I noticed that whenever foreign media reporters were trying to set up interviews with me, the police would always show up downstairs. And I've noticed that the police who follow me use the same mobile phones from Huawei.
Huawei is a $100 billion phone and technology giant that's the world's largest provider of telecom equipment. U.S. officials describe it as the symbol of high-tech Chinese government suppression and beholden to the Communist Party, alongside fellow telecommunications giant ZTE.
As a matter of Chinese law, the Chinese government can rightfully demand access to data flowing through Huawei and ZTE systems. Why would anyone grant such power to a regime that has already grossly violated cyberspace?
The Trump administration has mostly blocked U.S. companies from selling technology to Huawei, but the company is expanding its 5G or fifth-generation phone technology, and Vice President Vincent Pang says business is booming.
All our major customers still stay with Huawei. We signed a 50 contract with our major customers for 5G already, and this year we will deliver 150,000 base stations outside of China. I think that is the fact.
And that expansion of Chinese technology around the world has enormous implications for China and the U.S. That story tomorrow night. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin in Shenzhen, China.